Jane Evans, the Lasting Life Change Coach, asking you, are you a perfect parent? Now, I know I definitely wasn't, but I want you to be a much better version of a parent than I was. So I'm going to share with you some insights right now into the action reaction loop that many of us get stuck in as parents. So a child does something, they act in some way. So it might be that they push their brother over, it might be that they knock their drink over, it might be that they leave their washing upstairs again, it might be that they forget to take the very thing they needed to take to school and now they've got into trouble and maybe they're in detention, and it's going to cause you a lot of extra stress now to sort all of that out. So they have acted, they've taken an action, and you have reacted to that action. So, hand on your heart, how many times do you then regret how you acted, regret your action? And what do you say to yourself? What do you say to yourself, maybe initially to justify it? Well, after all, they need to learn. I have told them so many times. They weren't listening to what I was saying. They need to get more independent. I can't keep doing this for them. Now, I know that I would have said all those things to myself every time I reacted to my child in a negative way. I told them off. I was sarcastic to them. I reminded them in a not very pleasant way of things that actually they already knew, because I was scared or I was stressed. So it was always me who was theoretically in control of my reaction. Their action was their action. Yes, maybe they were just forgetting, maybe they were rushing, maybe they had a moment of overwhelm, maybe they were feeling angry, frustrated, jealous, who knows what, but they're children. So children do stuff, and our reaction is everything. So that is what I focus on when I work with parents. And I also, although my son is grown up now, I focus on this for myself, for how I show up in the world. But when we're parenting, it's the time of biggest emotional reactions. And what I found so fascinating when I discovered this a couple of years ago is that these reactions to our children's behaviour are the ones that we got the biggest reaction from our parents and carers when we were growing up. So what happens in the brain and the body system, particularly the lower part of our brain, and which is connected with our body, which is subconscious, so it's below consciousness, is big events that have big emotions attached to them get really strongly wired in our survival loop. So when our child does something that's similar in any way to something we got into lots of trouble for, we got shamed about, we got really told off for, it flicks our whole being back into that survival state we were in then. And we now as adults are in complete fight or flight. And as adults, unless we are very grounded and we clear this stuff out of our subconscious mind for good, then we play out pretty much what was done to us again and again and again. Our child feels miserable later on, we feel really miserable, and it's not good for your health, it's not good for your child's health, and it's certainly pretty catastrophic for their onward development, because it just puts a big barrier between you and them. They are trying to work out what the hell will keep you happy and keep you grounded. Now, sometimes they think that in a very conscious way when they get older. They're literally trying to work it out. And when they're little, they're just, it's a bit like being in a pinball machine, the randomness of what keeps adults happy. And the last thing I'd invite you to think about with this is imagine if you get to the stage in your life where you are living in a home for the elderly and your memory is not so good. Your coordination is maybe not as great. So you're forgetful, sometimes you're not as stable on your feet. Your anxiety has got really bad. That often happens as we get much older, unless we sort it out now. And so you're reliant on the people around you. You're reliant on the people around you to be really kind to you if you knock your coffee over. You're relying on the people around you not to get cross with you if you fall and you knock something everywhere. So you're relying on the people around you to remind you maybe to take your medication. So what if every time you fail to do these things well, they come and get really angry with you and upset with you and shout at you, and you're past the point where you could get yourself out of that situation? Well, that's very similar to the life of our children. They are trapped with the adults who they're with. They can't leave, and so they're dependent on us being very calm, very grounded, and being able to go through that action reaction loop without losing it with them. So if you think, actually I realise I am much more reactive than I want to be, and you want to change this, you want to change this fundamentally at this deep subconscious habitual level for good, forever, it's gone, you won't do that anymore, then drop me a message. Let's have a chat and see what we can do together to change your life, but also your child's.